Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge day number, I don't know. I've been traveling over the last 24 hours. What day? Do you know what day it is, Paco? Day number? Oh, it's right here on my screen. It's day number, this day. What day is it? I don't know. 6. Day number 6. My name is Howard Pinsky. I'm an, what title am I? It's a great day. You can tell I'm jet lagged, I'm tired, but I'm excited to be here. I'm here in San Francisco, live with Paco over there, who also doesn't know what day it is. But I'm excited to welcome everyone to the Behance chat. If you are tuning in live, let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Richard and Ariana and Mahadi and Anna and Antonio and Anil and Arielja. Possibly. If I mispronounce anyone's name, I do apologize, but I do recognize a lot of you. I just can't pronounce all of your names. I do apologize. But we are on day number 6, I believe, of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. Super excited to be here live in San Francisco. Hey, Eva and Tim is in the house. Welcome, everyone. So, if you're brand new to this thing, let's hop over to my screen. And if you are brand new, I'm usually not this discombobulated. But if you head over to behance.net/challenge/XD, this is the Daily Creative Challenge landing page. If you haven't hit that big blue register button at the top yet, definitely hit the button so you're notified when we do release new challenges. So every single day you're gonna receive a new challenge. It's gonna be different. Sometimes we build upon the previous challenges. Sometimes they're completely different. We kind of mix things up from time to time. This time around, every challenge is a little bit different from the last. You can join us in our Discord community chat, which is over here, which I don't have open. I'm very prepared today. But I'm gonna launch Discord right now. We have about 32,000 designers. There's the link. Thank you, Paco, for that save. bit.ly/XD Discord. Head over there, sign up for Discord, and then you'll be able to chat with about 32,000 designers. Not at one given time, but you know, right now we have approximately about 900 people online. You can jump in there, introduce yourself. You can share your work in the current challenge or past challenge feedback section. And there's just a lot of you diving in here, posting all of your amazing work. And if we do have time, we'll dive in here and take a look at some of them. But for now, we're gonna hop back over here and take a look at some of the challenges. So last Tuesday, we started looking at repeat grids. We went on to auto animate. Then we tackled the drag trigger, plugins, component states, and today is all about voice, which is super exciting. Being able to prototype your interactions using your voice is something that we really couldn't do before we released voice triggers at, I believe, max of last year. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. And you know, voice interactions are becoming so important these days with personal assistance and accessibility and that sort of thing. So, you know, we're gonna get going. So today, we're going to create a digital experience for discovering and saving free educational resources. So we probably all use like Duolingo or any of those applications. We're gonna do something similar to that so we can respond with our voice. We're gonna be using component states to save a lesson and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Make sure to grab that file, press get started, download it. If you're watching this in the future, you can watch the video again. None of that made any sense. If you're already watching it, why would you press the button? But you know, it's there if you do wanna watch this later on. So we're gonna hop over to Adobe XD. This is the template for today. And again, we have a little bit of section at the top about the challenge, again, to create a digital experience for discovering and saving free educational resources with the focus of voice interactions. There is some inspiration down at the bottom, this one from Anne and this one from Aga. And you know, you can build upon this or you can create something completely different. And even though in this specific challenge, we're gonna be designing for a mobile app, you can design for desktop, tablet, watch, whatever it is. If you feel comfortable in XD, definitely have fun with it. Get a little bit creative. I'd love to see some of that work. So we are going to hop over here to this lovely artboard. This is the iPhone 10, 10s, 11 Pro artboard. Of course, again, you can use whatever you want. And if anyone has questions as I'm designing this, definitely throw them in the chat. We've got Jan Eric and Richard and who else do we have? Marissa jumped in there. Welcome, everyone. All right. So what we're gonna start doing is just blocking out some elements like we've done in the past. Start off very simple. And I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, a good old trusty rectangle, and just draw out a shape somewhere right about there. This is kind of gonna house you know, an image at the top. And the concept for this specific screen is, you know, sort of like a quiz, right? It's gonna ask what something is, and it's gonna give you a few options. So this at the top is kind of give you a hint of what the answer might be. So I might wanna round out these corners a little bit, maybe let's say, I don't know, 16 pixels, something to that extent. Maybe I don't want the ones at the top rounded, or I want them even more rounded, so I can hold down my Alt or Option key and just move those up. I also probably don't need a border. And if you want to, you can always change the color of that shape, but we are gonna be dragging in an image, so it doesn't matter what color it is. I'm gonna hop over to Finder right over here, and I'm going to find, let's say, an image of a planet that I grabbed from Adobe stock. Simply drag it into Adobe XD. It does highlight in blue, letting me know that when I drop it, boop, it does pop that image in. I can always double click on it, move it around if I wanted to, but it looks pretty good right about there. All right. So we've got this sort of a hint image at the top, or the theme of this question, but of course we need a question, right? So again, I'm gonna grab my rectangle. A lot of designing is just using rectangles, but I wanna make sure that I have everything really nicely, evenly spaced. So I'm actually going to grab my guides, and if you've never used guides in Adobe XD, if you hover your mouse to the left or above an artboard, let me zoom in here. You've got these little guys, right? And this will allow you to drag out a guide, and it gives you contextual information, how far the guide is from the side. So this will be about 24. I'll drag this one. This will also be about 24 pixels from the side. And now I make sure that when I'm creating elements, that everything is, you know, nicely lined up. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle, draw one out, something like this. Everything snaps really nicely. I may wanna round out those corners, so I'll just do, let's say, 8 pixels. Don't want to go too crazy. A white background looks pretty good, but I may want to, you know, pop it out from the white down below. So I'm going to add a very subtle drop shadow. It's very important when you're designing, your drop shadows typically have to be very subtle, right? Now this here, the default shadow, you can probably get away with it, but I'm going to make some changes, right? I'm going to bump up the y-axis so it's a little bit further down from the shape to about 13, maybe 15. And then I really want to bump up the blur quite a bit. Maybe, yeah, let's see what 20 looks like. Now that's looking okay, but it's still a little bit too harsh. So I'm just gonna jump in here and just drop the opacity, just so it's nice and subtle and it pops it from that background. And maybe to even separate it a little bit more, I may want to change the color of the background of this area at the bottom. So if you're zoomed in quite a bit, you can double click on the artboard to select it. And I'm going to change the fill. Maybe I'll add a little bit of a blue, just something like that. So it's a little bit gray, a little bit blue. It just gives a little bit more separation from this box in the foreground. And I can also go back and tweak the shadow if I want to add a little bit of color to the shadow. Again, very subtle. Hopefully you can see that coming through on your screen. Maybe I'll just increase the blur a little bit more. Very subtle. You don't want to go too sharp, because then no, right? So very subtle with your shadows if you are working with shadows. So we've got this box here, and we may want to use this to house the question. So in this case, I'm gonna grab my text tool. Instead of simply clicking, I may want to click and drag to create area text. And let's say this will be, which planet is third from the sun, right? There we go. And if you know the answer to that question, I hope you know the answer to that question, definitely leave it in the chat. I'm also going to select this and just make this, boop, there we go. Lovely superscript, and maybe just increase the size just a little bit more. Beautiful. All right, that looks pretty good. I've got the question nice and centered in the middle of this box. Things are looking pretty good, right? Now, of course, we need answers, possible answers. Some may be wrong, some may be right, or one of them will be right and the rest will be wrong. So what we're gonna do is down below, what I could do is just grab this rectangle and just duplicate it, just like this, right? It's got the shadow still on there. Might wanna make this a little bit smaller to house some of the questions or the answers. No one said the answer yet. Frankie's saying he's not using Poppins today. I am not, I'm switching it up. I'm going very exotic with Sophia Pro. I could use Papyrus. I probably shouldn't, but I could. So I'm gonna just do that. I can also duplicate the text, and this might be Jupiter, right? I can change this to point text, make sure it's nice and centered. Maybe medium might be okay. Maybe for this one at the top, I might wanna go, let's say bold, see what that looks like. That looks okay. Is it Earth? Yes, there you go. So now we have this one answer, possible answer, right? But we may want to convert this into a component. We may want to use that within a repeat grid, just so we can, use it quite often. So I'm gonna select both of these, Command or Control K to turn it into a component, like I did show you, I think it was yesterday, I've lost track of time. And now that I have this into a component, it's got the shadow, it's got the background, the text. I can also, please don't use Papyrus, I'll try not to. I can also include this within a repeat grid, and I can do that with my lovely repeat grid button at the top. Boop, there we go. And you're noticing, because I had the shadow on that component, it did leave a little bit of room for that repeat grid when it did create. So I can just drag out, let's say, a few extra, set the padding just like that, and now I have my lovely answers. And now I can jump in here and override them, Mars and Earth. There we go. And of course, because I used components and they're within a repeat grid, I can edit the master. If I wanted to make them super round, I can do that. Or if I wanted to override one of them in particular, let's say I wanted to make this one a different color for whatever reason, maybe that's the right answer, that's an ugly color, don't do that. But you can do that because you're using components within a repeat grid, you can override instances. So a lot of cool things you can do, but I'm gonna get rid of this red because it's ugly. So now that we have kind of the base of this application set up, of course, we need to start integrating voice, right? So let's go ahead and create a microphone icon at the bottom. I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool, moving away from my rectangle, draw one out just like that, right about there. Maybe I'll pull in some blue, nice blue color, a little bit desaturated just like that. That looks pretty fancy. And maybe for the border, I'm gonna go on the outside, but I'm gonna use the same blue color for the border. And you're probably asking, why would you do that if the same, it doesn't make sense, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bump up the size of this border, and I'm simply going to just drop the opacity a little bit, just to give a little bit of an outline. Because sometimes microphone icons, they pulse a little bit. Hey Cody, welcome, great to see you. So I'll do something like that, nothing too crazy. And of course I need a microphone icon. Now I could use, a third-party plugin manager, I've used Nucleo a lot in the past, but I'm gonna go to my trusty icons. I've got the Icons for Design plugin installed. I'm gonna type in mic. There's a microphone icon, click on that, change the color to white because they're all vector, which is fantastic. Pop it in place. And now I have a microphone icon. And just to keep things nice and organized, I may want to select them. I can turn this into a component if I am gonna be using it throughout multiple artboards, which I probably will. And in my layers panel or my assets panel, I'll just name this mic. This will be answers. And this was from when I was experimenting, so I can delete and delete. No one saw that. All right, so now that we have sort of everything looking pretty good, I might wanna move this up a little bit, just to give a little bit more breathing room for the microphone icon. It's time to prototype. So how do we prototype when it comes to voice? Well, it's very similar to prototyping with Auto Animate or whatever it might be that you are prototyping with. What we're gonna be doing is we're going to have to define both states. So the first state on one artboard, the second state on the other, and not the states as component states, but the before and after, right? So I'm gonna duplicate this artboard, Command or Control D, boop, there we go. And this is essentially what it's going to look like when we have determined what the right answer is. So maybe in this case, we'll keep these white, but we'll dive into this specific answer, which is Earth, which is the right answer. And I'm going to set the color, let's say, to a nice blue. You know what, I can always pull in this nice blue down here. Maybe I'll change the color of that to white. And this will indicate that this is the chosen and possibly even correct answer. We can also do interactions for incorrect answers as well. So we've got this set up, everything's looking pretty good. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hop into prototype mode to actually get the voice interactions going. So I'm gonna hop into prototype mode right here at the top. Boop, I missed it. Boop, I just want the boop again, right? And we need to, just like any other interaction, we need to choose what object the user is going to tap on or click on or whatever it might be. So I'm going to choose the microphone icon. And we've got our lovely little handle over here, and we're gonna pull this handle to the second artboard, just like that. And now we can start defining the interaction over to the right within the properties inspector. In this case, we don't want tap, we don't want drag, we want voice, right? Just like that. And command is going to be whatever you're going to speak into Adobe XD, into the prototype that it's going to listen out for. So in this case, we'll do earth, just like that. And then what do we want to happen? We could choose auto animate, but there's really nothing to animate at this point. So we'll just choose a simple transition. We'll choose none for the animation, so it just cuts to it. And that's it, right? Now, of course, we can get a little bit deeper. We can actually have Adobe XD speak back to us. So what I'm gonna do to do that is I'm going to click on the first artboard, or the second artboard, and instead of dragging the handle to another one, I'm simply going to click on it. And this will allow me to set up a time trigger. And it's good to note, if you've never used a time trigger before, that time triggers are only available on an artboard level. So if you have an individual object selected, you will not see the time trigger. Maybe in the future, who knows? But at this point, artboards have to be selected. So I'll go ahead and select that. I'll want a delay of probably 0 seconds, so I want to kick off pretty much immediately. And for the action, we want to choose speech playback. This will allow XD to speak back to us when we transition to this artboard. So I'm gonna do that. We have a bunch of different voices you can use. Some of them are kind of creepy, some of them are nice and soothing. So I'll just choose the first one and correct. The answer is earth. Beautiful. All right. So things are mostly set up. Thank you, Paco, for moving me out of the way. And things are looking pretty good. Of course, we can build on this, but we're gonna see how things are looking. What we're gonna do is we're going to press the play button at the top. Let me move this stuff out of the way. And the way voice interactions work in XD, you simply hold down on your spacebar and you speak. And hopefully my microphone is working today, but did I even set that up? Did I set that up? Let's see, earth, I did set that up. Okay, I was second guessing myself. Earth.
Correct. The answer is earth.
There you go. Hopefully you heard that. Let me bump up the volume and do this one more time. Earth.
Correct. The answer is earth.
There you go. And of course you can dive in and choose some of the other voices if you did want to. Let's go for Sally. I don't remember what they sound like.
Correct. The answer is earth.
Not too bad. Let's go for Matthew.
Correct. The answer is earth.
There you go, very deep. All right, so we'll go back to Joanna. So that's on a basic level how to set up voice interactions, but of course you can expand on this however you like. So let's go ahead and add a few more artboards just to have a little bit of fun with this, right? So what we can do is we can also combine this with tap triggers if we wanted to. So if I go back to prototype mode, let's say I select this one, I can drag this over. So if I don't want to use my voice, you can choose a tap trigger. We can have the same properties, a transition with maybe no animation. So now this time we can simply tap on it.
The answer is earth.
Right? But we can also start adding in some incorrect answers. So what we can do, we can go to Mars and we can drag this to another artboard. But what we need to do in that case is, let's say we want to duplicate this. This will be Mars. I'm gonna make sure to name my artboards. Mars, Earth, and I'll just do one more. And this will be, let's say, Jupiter. Right? And now I can dive in here, choose Mars, change the color to, let's say, sort of like a jarring, you are wrong color. Something like that. That looks pretty, it looks pretty jarring. You can change the color of the text to white so it's nice and contrasty. Beautiful. And I can do the same thing for Jupiter over here on this artboard. And just like we did before, the process is the same. You hop into prototype mode, you select pretty much any layer. It doesn't have to be the Mars layer. It could be also the microphone layer. You can add another voice trigger to this specific layer. You just drag out an additional wire. But to keep things nice and organized, I'll just drag one out from Mars to this artboard. This will be a voice trigger, and it's gonna listen out for Mars, animation none. This will be Jupiter, bam, Jupiter. There we go. And of course, you can also set up speech playback on all of these artboards. So this one, tap, just like we did before. It's going to be a time trigger, 0 second delay. We'll do speech playback. Incorrect. Try again. And I'll just copy that, and I can do the exact same thing on Jupiter. Speech playback. We'll go back to Joanna. And there we go. So now, from the first artboard, of course, if I say Earth,
Correct. The answer is
It's going
Earth.
to give me the correct answer. However, if I now say Jupiter,
Incorrect. Try again.
right? So of course, all of a sudden you can really create some really interesting interactions using Abdullah is saying red. Yeah, it's almost red. It's like an orangey red. I don't want to go too red because then it's like too in your face and kind of degrading, but a little bit, dial it back just a little bit. So there you go. And of course, if you wanted to get some animations going into this first artboard, let me just have a little bit of fun here, just because I can, right? So maybe duplicate this over to this side. Maybe I'll want these to kind of come in as the interaction loads, right? Maybe I'll just have it come from the bottom. I'll separate these a little bit, just like that. Move this down a touch. And then what I can do is set up a time trigger. So when this artboard loads, it automatically goes to the second artboard. I'll have it a 0-second delay. I'll do auto animate. Let's go for ease in and out, 0.4 seconds. So now when I press play, all those answers kind of come in. Earth.
Correct. The answer is Earth.
There we go. So the last thing I want to show you kind of touches on, let me move all these over a little bit. It kind of touches on, I missed it. You can do it. Let's go. Move them over. It kind of touches on this part of the challenge for discovering and saving free educational resources. And that's if you wanted to kind of add another component, let's say a heart icon, so you can save this specific question a little bit later. So very quickly, what I'm gonna do is back to my plugins. I'm going to, let's say, find a little heart icon. There we go. There's a little heart icon. I can pop it down here. Probably don't want it too in your face at the beginning. So we'll just set it to like a nice gray color. Not sure I'm loving that, but we're gonna run with it for now. And I might want to turn this into a component with different states so a user can very easily tap on whichever state that they want. So to do that, like we've done before, Command and Control K, just like that. That's our default state. I'm gonna create a new state, which will be filled in. And I'll just change the color to a red. And that'll basically indicate that this question has been saved or liked or whatever it might be that you want. And of course, you can toggle back and forth between the two states, but you can also prototype it. So under prototype mode, I'm gonna simply click, and we've done this all yesterday. We've probably all used component states as well. letsxd.com/states, a lot of information there, including a UI kit that I designed. This will be tap. I'm gonna choose a destination to filled in. Probably don't need auto animate, unless you want to get fancy, but we'll just leave it at that, and then we'll do one more from the second state. And there we go. Bam. Now, one cool trick is because I've added this prototype to my master component, all I have to do now is copy it, select all my other artboards, including this one over here, and then paste. It'll paste it in the exact same position. I missed some of the artboards. Rah. Paste. There we go. It's not doing it. Paste, paste, paste. Don't know why it's not doing it, but it wasn't doing it. But now, you don't have to prototype it again. The prototype wires and the interactions come over. It's a good time. So now if I press play, I can either have it filled in, I can not have it filled in. A lot of cool stuff you can do, but that's going to basically do it for today. Created a voice interaction using Adobe XD with speech playback and a few component tips and tricks. Stick around in just a few minutes. One of my good friends, Chris Cannon, who talks a lot, as you probably have heard, is coming up in just a few minutes doing some, I don't know what he's doing. I didn't watch yesterday's show. Sorry, Chris, but stick around. It's gonna be a good time. It's always a good time with Chris, and I'll be back tomorrow with day number 7 of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Thanks, everyone.